Hi, I'm Heather from Here Booktubes, and today is a try a chapter of fantasy romance and also a first sentence reading of those romances. So I think I have one book that is by an author I've read before, although I've read their mafia romance, not their fantasy romance, and I think the other 9 are new to me authors. Oh no, that's not true. One I've read sci-fi romance from as well. I am actually in the middle of Jonte's Inferno, which is a readathon hosted by Jane Agaton, and the next prompt is conflict in the synopsis that intrigues you, and I honestly do not know what book to pick, so I'm hoping that I will have an answer for that from this video. And then next week I'm doing Romantasy-a-thon because it's only a week long this time, and that is the type of readathon I like to participate in. And I already have a couple definites for that are not in this try chapter, but I'd like to add a couple more. So I'm hoping that this will help prioritize some fantasy romance. The last few that I've read, I have given low to mediocre ratings, and I just want a win. I want to hit. I love fantasy romance so much. A lot of my favorite books will end up being the fantasy romances that I love the most. So I'm excited about that. All right, so we're just going to go in order on my Kindle. And we're going to rate the first sentences first, and then we will read them based on the first sentence readings. Okay, the first one is Rain and Ruin by J.D. Evans. I recently saw this recommended again for political fantasy and romance, which is my jam, is like what I love the most. I had this on my TBR a long time ago and took it off without ever trying it, but here is the first sentence. The gallery that led from the main palace to the council hall had never stretched so long. All right, so that's getting a 1. That's getting a 1 on the intrigue. All right, next is Twin Blades by Noah Upton. This is a BIPOC, I believe she's Black, but a BIPOC author who her paranormal romance is queer and BIPOC characters and had gone on my radar, but then she also has this fantasy romance, and that is honestly why I did it. I was like, oh, let me try the fantasy. Ooh, and there's art. Look at this character art. All right. Okay, know what I'm saying? Yes. Chapter 1, the beast before me slammed a mud-colored fist into my side. We're gonna give that a strong 4. I like it. Next, we will do Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields. As I do try the chapters, I will let you all know more of what these books are about. This is one of my oldest TBR books. Other than the synopsis itself, I don't really know why it's on my TBR. They arrived at the same time every year, and I will give that a 1. Next is Unlikely Queen, which is the fantasy by the mafia author that I've read. This touch brands my very soul. Should I also give that a 1? Maybe. All right, so far Twin Blades is the leader by a mile. Next I have Lady of Darkness by, who is this by? But this one's so popular. Melissa Roharick. This is so popular. I've seen it talked about a million times. I do think that the series itself might be a little stressful for me based on a couple of things, but I'm curious. You are sure he will be here tonight? I'm also going to give that a 1. What is the point of this? You might be asking yourself. I don't know. All right, A Kingdom of Flame and Fury by Whitney Dean is another one that is one of my oldest books on my TBR. And I think that this one is vampires. I was coming down from a high of burning the throats of 2 thieves when I looked to the sky and saw the sun starting to set. I'm also going to give that a 1 because if you start off with violence like that, like burning their throats honestly freaks me out. So it's almost a negative. Can I give a negative? All right, next we have Stalked by Seduction and Shadows by Maggie Sunsert. I also don't know why this is on my TBR, to be honest with you. warring vampire clans. First time I watched the girl I called Little Flame, she was picking flowers in a grove on the outskirts of Crescent Haven. How much are you guys gonna hate me if I say 1 star? I'm sorry, these are not, like, the first sentence itself doesn't have to be the most intriguing thing in a book, for sure, but these are not doing anything for me. Next I have Trial of the Sun Queen by Nisha J. Tooley, and this is on my TBR because of Robin at Paperbacks and Planners. She absolutely loves this series. That bitch took my soap. Strong 4. We have a contender, folks. Almost done here. Slaying the Shadow Prince by Helen Schuer. Obviously, I've heard a lot about this one. They're interconnected standalones by different authors that also kind of tie into those authors' individual fantasy romance universes. But this one specifically, I saw the release of her new series got my attention, but it's like a spin-off of her old series, and I was like, oh, well, let me actually read this standalone. Drew Emerson patrolled the northernmost point of the fallen kingdom of Narva and looked into the festering darkness. Well, you know, you already know. I don't even need to say it. It's a 1. It's a 1, folks. It's a 1. Not a lot of variety in this one. My bad. And then this is Night of the Witch by Sarah Raish and Beth Revis. Beth Revis, I read her adult sci-fi romance. Absolutely loved it. This is a young adult fantasy romance, which is a knock against it, but because I did like her character type work and her writing so much, I'm willing to give it a shot. My mother's eyes are fire embodied, smoldering with such fury that I feel their heat on my skin. Well, guess what, guys? We got variety. I'm gonna give that a 3. So that means we're going to start our first chapter with Twin Blades by Noella Upton, and then I will let you know more about what this book is about. All right, I read the first chapter of Twin Blades, and she is a warrior queen who has been outcast, has been without a home. She's been fighting in taverns and things, and that's what's happening in the first chapter that we see. And she does have an altercation with this shadow guy who's going to end up being her bodyguard because she is going back home at the request of her family, and part of her atonement for being gone for so long is to try and seek out allies. So the two of them are going to be journeying together, but right now they definitely are not. They did not have a pleasant meeting. So I liked the writing. I want to pick this one up. The next chapter that I'm going to try is Trial of the Sun Queen. All right, Trials of the Sun Queen. She's been in prison for the last 12 years along with 2 of her siblings because of who they are. And in the first chapter, she gets in a fight and she's being put in the hollow solitary confinement / torture session, which she barely survived last time. And that's how the chapter ends. Now, we know from the synopsis that she is going to be released and sent to the enemy king's sun trials, where she has to compete with people to be his queen. And if she goes back, the guy that's had her in prison the whole time is going to really have it out for her. So she really has no choice but to win the trials. But that first chapter is all in the prison. Okay, so next we will try Night of the Witch. All right, Night of the Witch is Witch and Hunter #1, so it is witches and witch hunters, obviously. In the first chapter, their coven and village is attacked, and everyone but our main character is killed, and her mother is burned at the stake. Her mother was a very powerful witch. And the love interest is going to be a witch hunter, but he's actually a witch hunter undercover. He's there because his mother was burned at the stake and he wants to get revenge. So they're going to end up teaming up. So I like that the witch hunter is not a zealot or a believer or anything like that. They're someone who's actively trying to fight that system. I like that, but I'm not going to read this one. So all the rest of our first sentences were 1 stars, so it doesn't really matter what we go with. So we will just go in order, and the first one is Slaying the Shadow Prince. All right, so Slaying the Shadow Prince, the entire country is taken over by a shadow race, and you need to kill them, and yada yada, and that's what she is busy doing. And then this guy is he's a half-wraith, which is related to the shadow race, and so she wants to kill him, but they're gonna have to work together. The chapter was fine. I will probably continue reading it for all the same reasons that I wanted to pick it up in the first place. Next, I'm going to read Stalked by Seduction and Shadows. All right, so that first chapter was really short, is him seeing her when she is a little girl, but she has powers of seduction and he's the vampire king. He had tried to let her go. She's back. She's looking through the vampire cities for her sister who has been enslaved, I think. And so he's going to take that as permission to claim her, is the synopsis. Again, definitely don't care about the first chapter. Don't really care about, you know, the meeting when she was a small child. But I don't know. I have no opinion. I don't know if I'll delete it or keep it. Next, I'm going to try A Kingdom of Flame and Fury. All right, so Kingdom, Flame, and Fury, I'm not going to be continuing. She can morph through different people, but she has like 4 alter egos, and she can do their physical appearance and their magical powers. I don't think it's limitless. I think it's only these specific ones. And yeah, the writing is just not working for me. She's the queen of her country. She was made the queen randomly at 10 years old by the whim of the old king who had no heir. And it's a small island village kingdom. But don't care. Won't be reading it. Next, I'm going to try Lady of Darkness. All right, Lady of Darkness, the first chapter, you know, she was an assassin. She's been at this country estate, and now she's going to take one last job because she can finally go after the Fae Prince who killed her mother. The first chapter is fine. The reason why I'm interested in this book is the hype, honestly, and I think I am willing to give it more of a try. So it's staying on the TBR, but is not super exciting priority on that first chapter. Next, I'm going to try Unlikely Queen. All right, so the first chapter of Unlikely Queen is really quick, super duper quick, and it's basically just a conversation between the main character and the love interest, and this is going to be really steamy if her mafia books are anything to go by. And basically she's the prophesied queen, but there is an evil queen that's ruling, and she has 2 angels, one of death, one of something or other, that are coming after her, and she needs to fight back against the vampires. And I'm gonna be honest though, I don't think that I'm gonna keep this on the TBR. I don't really, yeah. I think I'm good. All right, next is Nectar of the Wicked, and we are almost done here. This is our next to last one. All right, Nectar of the Wicked, she's a changeling, and her human abusive parent is killed in the first chapter by the Fae, and then she is actually going to owe a debt to a brothel, and she's going to work there and have a client that is a Fae king, and he's going to marry her to take her to the Fae lands, and then when she gets there, he's actually the villain. It looks like there's some pretty dark content warnings for this one, and I think I can let it go. So we're going to take that one off the TBR as well, and then that leaves us with our last one, which is Reign and Ruin, which is probably the one that I am most excited for, not having tried it yet. So let's hope I like this first chapter. All right, Reign and Ruin is playing out a bit like Aladdin, not really, but similar court setting. She is the princess, and she and her mother, who is dead, had planned on her not just being the daughter of the Sultan for her husband to rule, but to be the actual first female ruler of their country, but her father has dementia and they're trying to hide how bad it is, but he is very confused, and there is a Jafar-like counselor who has more allies on the council than she does and who is standing against her. So he has fire powers and she has wind powers, and the whole first chapter was basically a political clash between them as she is trying to form an alliance with this other country. And I think that he's a prince and stuff, and I think he's going to be the delegate from this other country. So we haven't met him yet, but I think that's what's going to be happening. And I am willing to continue with this one because I really want to see a smart woman ruler. So that means that I took 4 books off of the TBR, and the first chapter that intrigued me the most was still Twin Blades, which is also the first sentence that intrigued me the most. But I don't know if that's the one that I will pick up at the end of this. You will have to watch my Dante's Inferno blog to find that out. But I'm happy to have culled this list a little bit and have a slightly smaller fantasy romance TBR, which I'm hoping to read a few of these this month. So hopefully, you know, in the near future, we'll know if I DNF'd or hated or enjoyed these books. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.